Deep water never sleeps. Part 1. The ripples don't lie. The lake looked the same as I remembered it. Still. Perfect. That unsettling kind of stillness that looks serene to anyone who didn't grow up with it clawing at their windows every night. But I knew better. Even after 12 years away, the shape of the lake hadn't changed. The fog still clung low to the surface like it was trying to hide something. The dock, somehow, hadn't rotted through. The boathouse sagged the same way it always had, like it was tired of pretending to be empty. The Lakehouse had been in the family for generations. Passed down like a legacy no one wanted to admit they were afraid of. My parents sold it when I left for college. Claimed they needed the money, but I always wondered if they just needed distance. After what happened to my brother, no one wanted to stay here. Not really. But now it was mine. Inherited unexpectedly after my aunt drowned. The official report said accident. No sign of struggle. Just an overturned rowboat, and her body washed up on the shore. But the photos showed her face turned upward, mouth open, not like she'd drowned. Like she'd screamed underwater. I returned alone. No cell service. No neighbors. Just the lake and the house and the hum of insects that always seemed too loud here. I stepped inside and the boards groaned in that slow, aching way that sounded almost disappointed. The air smelled of mildew and pine and something else I couldn't place, like wet copper and candle smoke. The furniture was covered in white sheets. The fireplace was still blackened with old soot. The clock above the mantel ticked even though I hadn't seen batteries in it since I was a kid. The first night was quiet. Until 2:37 a.m. That's when the ripples came. I was standing at the kitchen sink, looking out over the water, unable to sleep. The moonlight was full on the lake, cutting a silver path down its center. And suddenly, ripples. Starting at the far end. Slow, rhythmic, like something was rising beneath the surface. I opened the window to listen. No wind. No insects. No birds. Just the water breathing. The ripples stopped halfway across and began circling. Nothing on the surface. No boat. No animal. Just circles. Growing tighter. Then came the sound. A single knock. Not on the door. From beneath the dock. I froze. Waited. Then another. Knock. Knock. I grabbed the flashlight and crept out onto the deck. The fog was thicker now, clinging to my ankles like hands. The dock creaked under my weight. I knelt and pointed the light beneath the boards. Nothing. No fish. No debris. Just water and a reflection. Mine. But it blinked before I did. And its mouth was open. Wide. Too wide. I fell back, scrambled up, and nearly slipped running back into the house. The door slammed behind me without me touching it. The clock had stopped ticking. And when I looked at the floorboards in the entryway, water was seeping through the cracks. Fresh. Wet. Salted. Like the lake was leaking inside. I didn't sleep. I sat on the couch with the fireplace poker in my hand and every light on, though none of them felt bright enough. By dawn, the water was gone. So were the ripples. The surface was still again. But something had changed. The house smelled worse, richer, like rot under standing water. And the mirror in the hallway reflected the lake instead of the room. It didn't stop there. Later in the attic, I found a box I didn't recognize. Inside, dozens of black and white photographs. All of the lake. All of people standing on the dock. Different decades. Different clothes. Same poses. Same face. My aunt's. She was in every photo. Even the ones from before she was born. The same eyes. The same half-smile. Sometimes standing in the back. Sometimes in the water. Sometimes in the window of the house. I checked the date on one. August 2nd, 1947. Someone had written on the back in shaky script. She always comes back when it's full. That night, I didn't open the curtains. Didn't look at the water. But I heard it again. Knocking. From under the dock. From under the house. From inside the walls. At 2:37 a.m., the clock restarted. Ticking. The mirror fogged up, though there was no one breathing near it. And a single word appeared in the condensation. Down. Part 2, What Sleeps Below. The word on the mirror, down, had vanished by morning, leaving only a streak of moisture that never quite dried. I stood there staring at it long after the sun had risen, long after the shadows in the corners of the house had retreated. I even held my hand to the glass. It wasn't fog anymore. It was damp. The whole mirror was leaking, just a little, like it was trying to cry. I tried to tell myself it was stress. Isolation. The strangeness of returning to this place after so long. But you can't logic your way out of dread when it lives in the corners of your own reflection. I didn't go outside that day. Couldn't bring myself to. Not with the lake sitting there, watching. It looked different now. Not darker, deeper. Like it had gotten bigger somehow. Like the shore had crept back a few feet in the night, and no one had noticed. I spent hours trying to call someone. No signal. The landline was dead. I even climbed up on the roof with my phone held high, but there was nothing but wind. And that wind? It didn't blow across the lake. It blew from it. Like the water was exhaling. I found more photos in the guest bedroom closet. Same box. Same black and white prints. Some of them were damaged, water stains spreading out from the corners like rot. But all of them featured the same theme, people near the lake, never smiling, eyes too wide. Some of the photos were taken from inside the house. Some from the woods. A few from the dock at night, lit only by lanterns and the thin glow of the moon. And in the water, half submerged. A shape. Not clear. Not human. Something waiting. I burned them in the fireplace. Every last one. But they didn't scream. They hissed. Like a snake boiling. That night, I locked every door, even the ones that never had locks before. I shoved towels under the cracks. I left every light on. It didn't help. 2:37 a.m. The clock chimed. It had never done that before. 3 soft bells. Then silence. Then splashing. Slow. Steady. Sloshing footsteps on the dock. Something was walking across the wood. Then more knocking. Not just from beneath the house now. From the ceiling. From the pipes. From under my bed. Wherever it was looking for a way in. I heard the old rowboat creak outside. heard it shift in the cradle at the end of the dock like something stepped into it. And then the sound of oars rowing toward the house. I didn't look out the window. I couldn't. Because I knew if I did I'd see her. My aunt. Still smiling. Still wet. I held my breath until it passed. Until the sound of oars vanished and the dock stopped creaking. When I finally dared to look, the boat was back where it had been, but water dripped from the seat. And something was on the dock. A single item. My brother's old rain boot. The one he'd been wearing the night he disappeared. The one we never found. I didn't touch it. I just stared. And then I saw it. Scratched into the wood near the boot. A message. 4 words. He's not the first. I didn't sleep again. The next day, I went into the boathouse. It smelled worse than I remembered, like mold and copper and something deeper. Something wrong. The kind of rot that comes from the inside out. Dust hung thick in the air, but the floor was wet. Footprints. Bare. Leading to the trapdoor in the back. The one we were never allowed to open. Not because it was dangerous. Because it was sealed. With nails. With chains. With salt. All gone now. Just wood. Swollen with water. I opened it. Beneath, stone steps, slick and dark, descending under the lake. Where the shore met the water, there should have been earth. Instead, it dropped away. The steps went beneath the lake. Without flooding. No light reached past the 3rd step. But I heard something. Breathing. Deep. Not fast. Not asleep. Just waiting. When I shut the hatch, it whispered through the cracks. Come back. You left something here. Come back and finish drowning. Part 3. Where the light can't go. I stayed awake for 42 hours. That's how long I could last before my body started doing things without asking permission. Before my eyes started closing on their own, my hands started twitching like they were trying to dig something up from the air. I didn't want to sleep. Not because of the dreams, but because of what waited on the other side of sleep, the memories. It wasn't just nightmares anymore. I'd see flashes while I was awake. Blinks of the Lakehouse from years ago. The smell of smoke. My brother's laugh echoing from under the dock. The ripple that took him. How I looked away for 1 second and he was just gone. We said he drowned? We hoped he drowned. Because the only other option was that the lake took him. And now it wanted me too. On the 3rd night, I passed out sitting up, with every light on and the fire still burning low. And the house showed me what I didn't want to remember. In the dream, I was back on the dock. The moon high. The fog thick. I heard my name whispered from the water, not shouted. Whispered, like it had learned to speak through mud and teeth. Then a hand reached up. Not my brother's. Something wearing his hand. Fingers too long. Palm too wide. The skin sagged like it had been stretched from something smaller. The voice whispered again. He's further down now. I woke to find water on the floor. Trailing from the back door to the trapdoor in the boathouse. Salt water. Still warm. Like breath. That day, I tried to leave. Packed what I could. Got in the car. Started driving the path away from the lake house. The forest around me thinned. The signal came back. I got service. I got music. I got sun. And then, I passed the mile marker. Again. The same bend. The same dead armadillo in the road. Twice. 3 times. The lake was pulling me back. Or I was never really gone. When I returned, the dock had changed. Longer. Reaching farther into the lake than I remembered. Like it had grown in my absence. The boat was already in the water. Tied off. Rocking gently. Inside, something waited. Not a person. A mask. One made of bark and mud and lake rot, shaped like a human face. Eyes hollow. Mouth sealed. My hands moved before I could stop them. I untied the boat. Got in. Rowed. Toward the center. No wind. No birds. Only water beneath me, too deep to see through. And below it movement. Faint. Massive. Pulsing like a giant heart. I reached the center. The lake stopped moving. Dead still. I looked over the edge. And saw my own face looking up. Eyes open. Unblinking. Mouth whispering something I couldn't hear until I leaned in. You left me down here. I fell forward. The water didn't splash. It took me. Swallowed me whole like a lung inhaling smoke. No cold. No breath. Just sinking. And darkness. The kind that doesn't come from lack of light, but from refusal. There were shapes in it. Memories stitched to bones. Things moving too slow to be alive, but too precise to be dead. The deeper I sank, the more I saw. People. Old. New. Floating, faces turned upward, mouths moving in slow silence. Some of them wore their own faces. Others wore copies. I passed one that looked like my mother. She didn't blink. Didn't breathe. Just mouthed. You knew better. When I finally stopped sinking, I landed on something soft. It pulsed. The lake bed wasn't dirt. It was flesh. And at its center something opened. A mouth. Too big. Teeth like broken boatwood. And inside it, a ladder. Leading down. Not up. Not to escape. To remember. I climbed. One rung. Then another. Each rung was a different memory. The first time I lied. The day my brother vanished. The second time I heard the whispers. The time I forgot my name for a second while standing too close to the water. The further I climbed, the more of me it took. Skin wrinkled. Vision blurred. My own heartbeat faded until all I could hear was the lake's. And then I saw the room. Stone walls. Carved with names. Thousands. Maybe more. A chair in the center. Facing a mirror. And in the mirror? Me. Sitting. Already waiting. Smiling. Behind me, the lake. On my chest, a name tag that read, Drowning in Progress. I woke on the dock. Face down. Mouth full of lakeweed. The boat was gone. The mask still in my lap. When I looked up at the sky, the stars were gone. The moon had sunk below the water. And in its place, rising slowly, a face. Smiling. Mine. Part 4. The Ones Who Float Face Up. The face in the sky didn't move. It hung there like a reflection, hovering just above the water's edge. Mine, but older. Wetter. Smiling in a way I never had. Lips too thin. Cheeks stretched like they'd been hooked from inside. The lake had learned me. Not just my voice or shape. It had taken my likeness, and now it wore it like a mask, one better fitted than my own skin ever had. The dock groaned beneath me as I stood, light-headed and half-drenched. My legs trembled. My hands itched. Not from cold. From memory. I could feel it in my bones now, the lake's pull. It wasn't in the water. It was in the house. The ground. The air. Even the bugs in the walls buzzed to a rhythm I recognized but couldn't place, like a childhood song played backward. I didn't sleep that night. The bed didn't want me. The sheets were damp when I touched them. They smelled like the bottom of the lake. So I sat in the living room and listened to the house breathe. The clock ticked in twos. The fire popped in threes. The floor creaked in fours. And at 2:37 a.m., as always, the knocking returned. This time, it came from all sides. Above. Below. Inside. Like I was in a box, and something outside wanted in. Or worse, something inside wanted out. I covered the mirrors. Didn't matter. They still whispered. I closed my eyes. Didn't help. I still saw the face. Floating above the lake, lips parting in slow syllables. You came back. You remembered. Now we remember you. The next morning, the dock had grown again. Longer than it should have been. Reaching too far into the water. I followed it, barefoot. At the end was a body. Floating. Face up. Eyes open. Mouth wide in a silent scream. The face was familiar. Not mine. Not exactly. Like someone had tried to make a copy and hadn't gotten all the details right. The closer I got, the more I realized it wasn't floating. It was anchored, tied to the lakebed by a root coiled around its ankle. It twitched when I stepped closer. Not from life, but from memory. The lake wasn't holding the dead. It was storing the living. Every forgotten person, every missing child, every drowning that was never explained, they weren't gone. They were waiting. Preserved like moths in amber. Still faced. Still breathing. Still remembered by the water. I ran back inside. I tried to pack again. The suitcase filled itself with water. My wallet was blank. Every photo inside, gone. Every card erased. My ID now read, property of the lake. I tore it apart. It pulsed in my hand and melted through the floor. I screamed into the silence. And silence screamed back. Then the phone rang. The one I hadn't heard in years. Rotary. Yellowed with age. Unplugged. But it rang anyway. I picked it up. On the other end, splashing. And then, he's here with us now. You should be too. You always should have been. Click. Dial tone. I sat on the floor, dripping lake water I hadn't touched. And then I saw them. Through the front window. Dozens. Maybe hundreds. Figures standing in the shallows of the lake. Face up. Still. Their reflections looked more alive than they did. One by one, they began to walk, toward the house. No splashing. No footsteps. Just presence. The doorknob turned. I hadn't locked it. The knob twisted once, twice. Then stopped. They weren't trying to get in. They were waiting for me to come out. That night, I slept in the boathouse. Didn't matter. The dreams followed. But they weren't dreams. They were instruction. Visions of a circle drawn in mud. Roots braided like rope. A hand cut and offered to the water. A word spoken backward. And then silence. Not peace. Not death. Just quiet. And in the quiet, something bloomed. From the lakebed. A shape. With teeth. With memory. With my name carved into its skin like initials on a tree. The next morning, the fog never lifted. And neither did the face above the lake. It just watched. And waited. And somewhere beneath it all, my brother still floated. Face up. Eyes wide. Mouth whispering a word I hadn't heard in years. A word I remembered only as a child. A name. Its name. And it had always been mine, too. Part 5. The lake remembers all things. I woke to the sound of the dock screaming. Not breaking. Not splintering. Screaming. Wood groaning under pressure it was never meant to hold. Nails squealing from swollen boards. A low, wet sound like a throat clearing in the dark. I didn't want to go outside. But my body moved anyway. I crossed the yard barefoot, through fog that curled around my legs like cold fingers, across wet grass that pulsed faintly under my feet. The dock was longer than ever now, stretching out like a tongue into the lake's mouth. At the end stood my brother, still 8 years old, still barefoot, in his old yellow raincoat, still smiling that too-wide smile with the corners pulled back as if by strings. He raised his hand, waved, and behind him, rising slowly from the water like it had always been there, the root, thick, black, pulsing with veins that glowed faint red under the skin. A single shape blooming at the top like a flower made of bones and mouths. The lake's heart. It whispered in voices stacked on top of one another. You left us. You forgot. You called us back. I stepped onto the dock. One board at a time. Each step pulled a memory up from somewhere deep inside me, things I hadn't thought of in years. My first nightmare. My mother's voice when she told me to stay out of the water. My brother's laugh, echoing just before he vanished. I wasn't crying. The lake cried for me. Rain began to fall upward from the surface, drops leaping from the water into the sky, forming brief shapes in the mist. Faces. Memories. The ones I'd buried. The lake knew them all. And it had kept everyone. I stopped 10 feet from my brother. Or the thing wearing him. Up close, I saw it wasn't really him anymore. The eyes were too still. The skin too smooth. The smile etched into place. His mouth opened. And my voice came out. I never stopped drowning. I looked down. My reflection didn't move with me. It raised a hand when I didn't. It smiled. Then it opened its mouth and dragged me in. The water swallowed me like lungs clamping down. Not cold. Familiar. Like stepping back into a story halfway through. The descent was slow. Quiet. All around me, others floated. Face up. Eyes open. Still breathing. None of them dead. Just kept. Stored like photographs in a flooded album. They turned as I passed. Recognized me. Their mouths opened in unison. The lake spoke through them. You are the last. You are the first. You are the surface we needed. At the bottom, the root waited, wrapped in hundreds of faces. Some I remembered. Most I didn't. It reached for me. Not to harm. To wear. My body peeled away like old bark, falling upward through the water. And underneath? Something shaped like me. But not me. Stronger. Older. Made of silt and bones and promises broken. The root pulled me in. Merged. And above us, the lake stilled. The dock groaned once more. And then, silence. I don't remember climbing out. But I do remember standing at the shore afterward. Watching the fog lift. Hearing the trees breathe. Seeing the boat rock gently in the cradle like it had never moved. The house stood waiting behind me. Old, wet, smiling in its way. The forest didn't grow that day. The sun never rose. It just turned into light, without heat. And I walked the path back to the porch. Back to the door. Back into the skin. The mirror in the hall was uncovered. I looked into it. It looked back. My face. But beneath the surface of my eyes, the ripple remained. Not everything I was came back. Something else did. And now, the house is clean. The dock is new. The water is still. Until you arrive. And when you do, when you lean too close to the lake to see what's beneath, you'll see a face in the reflection. Smiling. Patient. Waiting. And it'll look like yours. But it won't blink when you do. And its mouth? It'll already be whispering. Your name. Because you've always belonged here. Because the lake remembers everything. Even you. Yendi.